Hello, everybody. So today I'm going to be telling you guys another story. In the background, I think I got some Team Deathmatch on Ascend. I think that's what it is. I think that's what I threw in there. Anyways, let's just get into it. So this is the time that I almost died, if you guys can tell by the title. So, I think this happened about spring break or summer, one of those two. All I know is we didn't have school at the time. I think it was spring break, though, because I remember bragging to my friends at school, like a week later. So, anyways, I was hanging out with two good friends of mine, Ian and Shane, and, you know, we were in the we were like these adrenaline junkies, like we wanted to rush and we wanted to mess with people. So he has this my friend Shane, we were over at his house, and he plays guitar and stuff, so I brought my guitar over and we were just messing around. Well, we got eventually really bored of doing that, so we went over and we were talking outside, and there's some crazy old Italian guy that Shane tells me he's always really like nuts, and he'll always like yell at him to mow his lawn all the time and stuff. And so we were out there, and he was like, hey man, we should do something tonight, crazy. And I was like, want to ding dong ditch the old guy next to your house? He's like, yeah, sure, why not? And so I was like, all right, what time you guys want to do it? He's like, I don't know, let's do it like after my dad goes to sleep. And I was like, what time does your dad go to sleep? He's like, I don't know, like 10 or 11. It's just usually when he goes to bed instead of like falling asleep on the couch or something. I was like, all right. And so he's like, cool, we'll go at 3, or we'll go at like 2 or 3. And I was like, okay. So it comes about 2:30, 3 o'clock. We go outside of his house, and we go over to the neighbor's house who's right behind him, and we just go to town on him. I was like, all right, who wants to go first? And Shane's like, you go first. I want to see if you're actually gonna do it. So I rang the bell and I ran. I ran back behind his dad's car, and we just sat there and noticed that this wasn't even a block from his house. This guy's house is right behind his house, like Shane's. So we ding dong ditched it, and the old guy, he didn't say much. He just, turned on his lights in his kitchen, because the way this guy's house is set up is he has a business in the front, and then in the back it's like that's his like house door, because I think they like live in the basement or something, or I think they just live like the whole front of the house where the balcony is, and then there's like half of the house in the front, like where the living room will be, is like a big costume shop or something like that. I don't even know what it is, but as they know is I saw a bunch of dresses when we hit it the first time. But in the back is the main door that he uses, because he has a big parking, um like a big concrete thing in the back where you can park, or blacktop. I think it's blacktop. And that's where he parks his car at. So we went over, we knocked on the door, we saw his kitchen lights turn on, because that's where his kitchen was, just at the back door, because that's what he uses to get in. And then he has a big shed right next to it. So we banged on the door, saw the lights turn on, nothing happens. So I tell Shane, I was like, all right, Shane, you go, or I was like, all right, Ian, you go, and then Shane will go after you. So Ian goes, he hits it, lights come on again, and then the blinds lift up. And since we're hiding behind the car and there's like a tree in front of the car, we could just very faintly see him lift up the curtains. But we saw him lift up the curtains like, kind of like, if you put your finger between the two like shades and you just lift them up and then peek your eyes out. That's what he did. And so he peeked his eyes out at us, and he didn't see us. Shut his lights off, went back. Shane hit it, and then same thing happened again, except he came out in his back on the back step, and he was looking around. Well, then I decided to go hit it, and I kicked over his garbage can as I ran. And since like, it's just a good effect. So I kicked it over. We get back to the house, and after we get back there, we see him, out in the back blacktop area. He's just not doing much. Ian does the same thing. He comes back out there again, yells something. And we're like, you know what? Let's just do one more thing and see if something happens. So we tell Shane to go do it. Shane runs up there, hits the door, kicks over the garbage can, comes back, and we're just waiting for a reaction. We see no lights go on. Nothing happens. He went out the front door where his business is, and there's like a big street by Shane's house, and he came around with a knife. I'm not even kidding. He came around with a knife and said, hey, and we heard something fall, and it was so creepy. And he said, hey, get back here. And then we started running, and he said with the Italian accent, obviously, because he's Italian. And so we started running. We darted, and me and Shane cut through a bunch of yards, and we ran all the way down to this park by his house. Well, Ian, he didn't know where we went, and so he ran the other way and fell off the curb. And the guy came over, and he's like, Ian told us that he was yelling, get over here, I'll cut your face, or something like that. And he's like, dude, put the freaking knife down. And he's like, no, I cut your face. And he's like, oh no. And so Ian just darted. He booked it. And we're over at the park. We were texting Ian, and Ian didn't have his phone on him. So we were like panicking. We were looking around, and we were like, dude, what if he's dead? What if he's like, what if he's hurt? What if he got caught by the old guy? So we're sitting there at the park, and we're laying down in these bushes. Like this big, it's a bunch of like weeds and broken sticks, and there's like a bunch of trees by us, and then there's a big bush right there, and we were hiding behind the bush with a bunch of branches and stuff on our back. And we know the old guy's car because it's like a silverish whitish like color, and it's a really small car, like not a smart car. I mean, it's a sedan, but it's like one of those smaller, older, like 90 cars. And so we just see him, or we didn't see Ian, and we were just waiting. And I was looking for him, and I see some guy walking down the street, and it looked like Ian. I said, Ian, and then he's like, oh, and then all I heard was a big gasp, and then he runs over to us, and then he lays down in the bushes. And then he's like, where were you guys? It's like we darted. And so then we're over here, we see the old guy. We see the old guy's car. He's driving by the park, and he's literally 15, 20 feet from us, and he stops right at the curb, right in front of the bush. And we heard a car door open, and we booked it. We booked it right towards this freaking, like, right towards into the park. And then he didn't even see us. He just heard us running. And he said, I hear you. And then he just ran, like, we darted. And we went over to this thing because there was, like, this big fence with a bunch of bushes next to it. And, there was, yeah, and it was like to another factory, and we just sat there and we hid in the bushes for a little bit, and there was a bunch of bugs in there, and it was really creepy. But yeah, it was pretty sketchy, and we talked about it, and then we were walking back home to Shane's house, and we went to the front door, and it was really quiet, and the old guy's lights were all off, and we looked, and we didn't find anything on the ground. But the creepiest thing ever, and I will never forget this, is when we got back to the house, and we go up on the front porch, and there was the flower pot that Shane had on the bottom step was up moved in front of the door, and we think that he'd put that there so that he could hear us, like if we tried to come back, like, or if we tried to get in the door. I think that he put that there so that he could hear us move the thing, or put it down the bottom step, so that we could so that he could come after us or something like that. But anyways, we were pretty tripped out, so we sat up in his brother's room for the rest of the night, because I was in the top story of his house, and we just like looked out at the old guy's house to watch what was going to happen. But thanks you guys for watching. Leave a comment, like, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.